This is Pat Windrow speaking at the Cable Easel with a program which is concerned with painting and drawing from life. And when I do a scene out of doors, the crew and I go out and we shoot a scene with a videotape, and we bring it into the studio, and I work from the monitor, which is as close as we can get to being out of doors. Which also means that you are capable, if you have a video recorder, to do the same thing, to go out and set your camera up for 40 or 45 minutes and set it on your own VCR and work from that. There is the monitor, just exactly the way you might be able to do it in your own studio. So this technique is an original here, and you may find yourselves interested in pursuing that way of painting landscapes. A lot of people just don't want to fight those elements and the bugs and the heat and the wind and so on. So maybe just going out and doing a videotape of what you want to paint, bringing it back and working from that may be an answer to the business of painting landscapes indoors. Well, this is the beginning of a study of clouds, which I thought we should attend to before the summer is too far gone. And this is at Hoyt Farm, which is a town of Smithtown Park, which has got a lot of things that maybe a lot of people don't know about. It's got animals, cows, goats, chickens, all sorts of wonderful things. People go there and have lunch, and you can find it. It's on New Highway, I believe, and if anybody wants to know anything further about it, just call the Town of Smithtown Parks and Recreation Department, and they will probably tell you exactly where this place is and how to get there and what you can do about visiting it. But I wanted you to know exactly where we were. Our very clever Matt Garfine, who is directing this program, shot this scene of clouds a few weeks ago when they seemed particularly interesting to him, and of course he was right, they are. They're quite wonderful looking clouds. And they are a good lesson to be learned for this particular study that I want to do and talk to people about, because so many people say, I cannot do landscapes, I can't do clouds, they move too fast, and that's the whole point. That's what I'm going to try to talk about this time. I talked about it when I first started this, but and I've gone through that cloud now, and now I'm working on the middle ground, which is equally as important, because without these trees, there's no landscape. A sky study with just clouds is extremely difficult to do. The only one who really succeeded in doing it was Georgia O'Keeffe and a couple of the British people like Rysdale and so on, and some of those people did beautifully, and so did Mr. Van Gogh. By the way, some of the pictures that you see here in the studio are travel pictures of mine that I have done as I've been traveling around. And this is a golden time of year to do that, to travel, to go on vacation with plenty of time to do this kind of thing. And I will show you, just as I did the last time, how to transport wet paintings when you're on the road. It's not as difficult as you think. It's not scary, and it's not difficult, and it's very, very rewarding. Well, here is the dark, wonderful, shadowy place underneath these trees that I have prepared to receive the lighter part of the trees. I'm working with some quick-drying white and quick-drying zinc, which means that that's an essential ingredient to have if you're working out of doors. You will be able to transport pictures in a matter of hours without too much smearing. The darkness here that I have put in is in order to be able to put the light, sunlit parts of these trees that you see in your monitor of the scene, which is called the middle ground. Without having put this darkness in, I wouldn't be able to get this sunstruck business of the leaves here on these trees. And this is the way, with deliberate strokes, not with just a hope for the best, stabbing the the canvas with a brush full of paint and hoping it looks like a tree. These are deliberate, observed little strokes, and done with a number 6 brush, not a number 4-inch house brush. So let me emphasize once again that my technique of painting is far removed from the ones that you will see on other programs, and maybe you like my technique and maybe you like the other. It's a free country, you can like as you please, but I'm concerned with doing working from life in this manner. Many times you will find paintings that are coming out of people's imaginations, and they are not observed, and therefore they don't smack of the realism that I'm after. So here are these little land masses in the front, with the sun dancing all over them, and the clouds above changing, of course, as the time goes by. I want to put in and do it in a very quick manner because our foreground here is a really sort of a wonderful, it's so dramatic to have all of this green, sun-struck, grassy area, which is part of this park. And I'm using it, I'm being rather audacious, I'm using pure yellow-green from a tube. Having said for a long time, don't ever buy green. The yellow-green is my one exception. I can mix it myself, but it would take far too long on this program for me to get this kind of wonderful, summery green, and you can be just as audacious as you please by having this virtually without anything but the color. I think that sometimes these wonderful, large, uninterrupted spans of color are what make a picture so dramatic. And they are also, you also can add to them later. Once you've gotten this entire ground on, and as you can see, I'm putting it on with a pretty good deal of abandon because it's a large area to cover. And this painting, by the way, is 20 by 24 with a couple of inches all the way around taken off for what I call handling space. When you pick this painting up, if it were wet, if you didn't have those borders to be able to handle it, you'd get your fingers full of paint and smear the painting anyway. So it's always good to make the border. If you want to have a mat on the painting, the border is already there showing you where the mat can go. And if you want to have the borders done, you simply will do them in the studio at home or in your house at home later by matching the colors, which is already a challenge in itself. Here is the final application. This time I'll go right over that trunk there because I know that I'm going to cover it. I'm going to do the trunk when I get to observing it. Here, there seems to be a little bit of darkness in this meadow. Maybe there is a hill or something, or a little bit of depression in the land, but there is definitely a darker area here, which means something is happening in the formation of the land. All of this can only be done by being there and observing it, or by having your videotape. So the business of finding a scene, of course, is one of the more important parts of landscape painting. And when you find a scene, my technique of going out with a video camera is probably a very good solution to the business of painting from life. This is about as close as we can get without getting out there. And there is some talk between me and our valiant little band and crew of camera people to go out and paint actually on the scene one of these days soon and see whether or not it will work and whether it'll be interesting enough to do it. At that point, maybe the monitor and using a videotape will be just another technique of how to work from life in a landscape. Well, I painted the shadow first, which may or may not be confusing to some, but I did have my brush full of green and I wanted to get that in there. It looks like a shadow, but we have to have something for the reason for that shadow, and that is the almost silhouetted trunk of this tree Oh, I must prepare the background for that first, so let me just do that, because the trunk has got things behind it. This is all what I call layer painting. You have to prepare your places for these objects to take place. So here's some more of the green that is in the distance, but it's a little bit subdued because it's a little bit farther away, so I'm going to darken it just a trifle. And then there is a road. Apparently it's a dirt road. A car just went by, I see on my monitor, and so this light area here is a type of, not a path, as I said earlier, it is actually a road. And the color of that is probably just a little bit of black and some white and a little bit of mauve. Well, maybe a little bit more light than you think. It is actually quite pale, so it's almost white. And this has to be put in here in order to be able to prepare to receive the trunk of the tree. The tree, of course, is a wonderful shape. I mean, you know, we'd like to have about 6 of those in our gardens ourselves, at least I would. And it's all extremely dark. The colors that I'm going to use here are going to be some Van Dyke brown, some ultramarine blue, a touch of yellow ochre, and see whether or not that does it. I want a good, rich, dark green, because there is so much light overhead that this tree has turned almost into silhouette. Here is the darkest part of it. It is going to get a little bit of light. The sun is going to light it a little bit, and the bottom of it is a little diffused, like the bottom of the clouds. The foliage, usually in summer paintings, is quite difficult to do. There's so much of it, and there's so much green that it almost is overwhelming, and that's one of the reasons, I suppose, that so many foliage and landscape paintings don't work very well, because there is just too much green. So the best idea is to find the time of day in which you're not going to find that absolutely endless amount of green, and where silhouetting is going to take place, take the curse of all that uninterrupted, luscious green, which is too much green, in my opinion. I like to use silhouetted things for drama, and for the fact that it's a difficult technique to develop. But once you've done it, you will find yourself more and more intrigued with what is called backlighting, and the painting term is chiaroscuro, which is obscure light. So here we have the way the leaves of the tree have got the sky behind them, and this has to be done in stages. The sky gets done first and dries a little bit, and that's when you can apply the little mottled leaves. Now, I don't like to see the programs that kind of use a whacking at the canvas technique with a brush and calling that a study of leaves in silhouette. They should be deliberately done. The need to observe, I think, is vital in all of these endeavors, and if you don't observe them, you haven't really learned anything. I'm changing brushes because that one is too wide for this particular trunk that I'm going to do, and the trunk is now a combination of, well, a little bit of alizarin crimson and some spectrum blue, ultramarine blue, and some Van Dyke brown. Well, here is the trunk that I've been talking about. Having changed brushes, it is going to the trunk is the color of the trunk blends right into the color of the leaves, because it's all in silhouette. Something funny with this brush; it seems to have a bad spot on it, and it's very simple. You don't attempt to do anything more than just give it its silhouetted shape. It has a nice curve to it, though, I must say, and of course it meets its shadow. It goes down and makes all one with the shadow. All of this is what I call the mysterious quality that comes from very dramatic pictures, whereby you can't tell where the shadow begins and the tree trunk ends, but you know that it's there somewhere, and it blends, and it gives you what is called a semi-quasi impressionistic feeling. There is no difference between here and there, but you know that there's a difference, that that trunk is there and that this is a green shadow and so forth and so on. I'm sure that you understand what I'm saying at this point. There is going to be a slight break because I need to, as usual, clean my brush, and you needn't watch me do that, so don't go away. I'll be right back. Just saw with the address over it is a painting that I did in Paris when I was there a few years ago, and the air pollution was so intense that the Eiffel Tower was almost invisible, which will tell you something about the City of Light. You see, you're seeing it right on your monitor. This is the Louvre over here. That large brown building is the Louvre. This is the Eiffel Tower, and this is called the Petit Trianon, which is a monument that Napoleon put up. And up there are some horses that he stole from another country, a big bunch of bronze horses and soldiers, and Napoleon stole those and brought them to Paris. And nobody seems to care anymore. They cared then, however. And you learn all these things when you do these paintings. So I just tell you that if you travel around in the summertime, just go ahead and paint things, and you'll find yourself learning tremendous things that you never sought, but they simply comes to you. I'm going to put in some pale green back here, which I notice on the monitor is part of a little tree in the background here that has caught the light, and it's being seen through my silhouetted tree. And that's one of the reasons that that you find yourself intrigued with these areas, because they have these nice little secret things taking place. The darkness of this background here comes way down, and that means that as you observe, you add. So the darkness down here, it means that this road is disappearing into another part of this park, which is Hoyt Farm, and I'm sure that everybody is now going to be intrigued to find out where is Hoyt Farm and how can I get there. People go there and have lunch. It's quite wonderful, and it's one of those lovely secret places that Long Island has to offer and maybe is not well enough advertised over the years. I find that there's another tree up here somewhere, just very vaguely kind of silhouetted against. It's taller than the other, makes for a better composition if it's very tall, and so it's over there in the corner. I don't know what kind of a tree it is. I just know that it's interrupting the sky at this particular point, and because I'm a realist, I'm using it to my own advantage. That's all probably that I need to do. Maybe I could introduce some kind of I think I do see a sort of a trunk in there, but it's nothing elaborate, and it just needs just a vague suggestion. Subtlety is, of course, always very, very important. Well, there is a flagpole here because it's a park and it's open to the public, and flagpoles are always a very important part of public places. So this flagpole bears, of course, the American flag. The American flag is in great evidence these days since that Gulf War. It's everywhere. It's on T-shirts, cereal packages. It's in parks, it's draped across railroad stations and buildings and in backs of cars. In other words, the American flag is in. And it's in this picture. So I'm going to place it. I don't want to put it dead center. I would like to be able to put it a little bit off center, but I'm afraid the way this thing has been composed that it is going to have to be rather dead center. Well, maybe a little bit off, a little bit to the left of center. I've got to put my glasses on for this. It is a smaller item, and I do believe that there are some close-ups that were taken of this flag, which means that because I'm, instead of being there, being able to focus on it myself, the camera focused on it. We always take close-up shots, and there it is. Oh, and there's another wonderful thing that I didn't see from the great distance. There is a dead branch sticking up from there, and that's something that one always wants. I always want to catch on something like that because it gives you some sort of feeling of the place that otherwise you would not notice if I did not. And I've got to scumble that and make it a little bit less obvious. But those things are quite important when you do pick. Okay, so we have the flagpole. Hopefully, it is always vertical and straight and not too fat, not too thin, and that it makes some sense. And I do believe it goes straight down to the grassy area, and around it they've put up a protective little barrier, which I'll put in later. But the flag, of course, moves in the wind, and there's nothing that one can do about that. One attempts to make it as comprehensible as possible when one is out there. It is rarely red, white, and blue in the out of doors. It's got too many shadows, and a close-up of it would help me very much at this time so that I can try to decipher what I'm seeing. A flag blowing in the wind is a wonderful thing to see, and even though it's full of shadows and makes it almost impossible to draw, you have to work really fast. You see, now it's moving impossibly, and I can barely make out what I'm doing. But well, this is what happens when you have the goal to get in front of the public and try and do something that moves fast as this flag. Anyway, part of it is in shadow, and part of it the red stripes are visible, and then the blue comes. Let me see if I can get the red stripes in there and make that comprehensible. The red stripes are going to be done with some alizarin crimson and a touch of orange because it is so dark it's almost silhouetted at this point. So here, let me see if these stripes can go this way. Just a suggestion is all you need. The stripes in the shadow part of the flag are darker, and because the flag turns around, they do funny things. So it's all quite difficult to do. I must admit that, well, it may not. These are the things that take some time. You have to take time with these things. Now the blue part is up above, and it's very at the very top, and it seems to what make the flag come to a point because the wind has caught it that way. That's almost about the best that I can do in this short period of time. The little, but it tells you something. It tells you where. First of all, it tells you what country you're in. I do believe that if an American flag is flying in a park, you know that you're in an American park. I suppose there may be American flags flying in other parks, but they would be with other flags too. Little barricades that are around this are kind of, well, they're sort of an indistinct color of nothing because they are down there in semi-shadow, but they do have a certain characteristic, and they are merely to be suggested with the little. They seem to be going down the hill. Let me tell you once again that these paintings that I do on the show, we had an event here a couple of months ago called Art for Open Lands, in which the paintings that I do on the program were available for sale. And if anybody was not able to be in on that, they might like to know that out of 33 paintings that were for sale, 22 of them sold, and the other ones will be available probably for next year when we do it again. I believe that there is a shadow of that flagpole on the ground, something which I only just now saw and which I absolutely have to attend to before it goes away. I think I see a shadow because it's overhead, and I think yes, there it is, and for some reason or another it does this, and it is in the it's kind of pointy, and it's got a little. There it is. As I'm talking, I'm looking at it and trying my best to decipher it. But there is a shadow of the flag, something which is is only possible to understand if you're there and you see it. So, as I say, working from life is an extraordinary experience. Probably the best experience of painting that there is, working from life. It's a challenge, I grant you, but it is also rewarding. Now, there is only a few things more that I want to do with this. To enhance it, and not to add to it, because I don't intend to. I don't think that I could add anything that would make it any more interesting than it is, but to intensify some of the darks of this really very shadowy area down here, making it even more dramatic than it is. As the paint dries, sometimes it will tend to fade a little bit, and therefore you do go back and you make it. You try to go over whatever it is that you have been working on that changes, because the light changes as time goes by. For the most part, this is all still quite dark in here, and it can remain that way. It does not have to do anything more than just be this mass of color here, which is eloquently telling you that this is a tree in the broad sunlight of a summer day. I'm going to sign this now, and then I want to talk maybe about how to transport a picture like this, which is really wet at this point. And I'm going to let me just sign it. And I always talk about signing in your handwriting. If you can sort of practice and do this, you need a special brush, and you need to have a lot of turpentine to do it. But this is the way I like to sign mine, and I also think that it is vital to put the date. You don't have to put, I'm going to put 1991 because I've practiced doing these signatures for so long that I may as well show off and do it. But 91 would be plenty. Everybody knows it wouldn't be 1891 nor 1791. So 2091 is something else again. Well, we have here a composition taken from a videotape, which you can do. It is also tells you a number of things. It does a number of things. It's a reporting. It's like a verbal report, except it happens to be visual. It will tell you that it's given you the time of year, the time of day, the place in the country that it is. We know it's not the Rocky Mountains, and we know it's not Fire Island. It's somewhere in the middle of the island because of all the greenery and so on. These things are what make the painting business fascinating. This little painting here is Marseille. This is in the southern part of France, and I was in a hotel room painting this from the window. This is fish buying morning. They begin at about 5 in the morning, and all of these boats come in from the Mediterranean, which is through the entrance to this harbor right here. The little fishing boats come in, they dock right down here on this quay or landing, and the fishermen's wives are the ones that sell the fish. And by 9 o'clock, there isn't a soul there. All the fish are bought, they're all sold, the fishermen have gone, and they're back out to sea again. It's a beautiful pink and blue city. These are all brick, of course, handmade brick done in the old style. The water in the Mediterranean is as pale a blue as you'd ever want to find. And of course, the millions, not millions, many hundreds of pleasure yachts and boats that are all docked in this harbor, because Africa is only about 6 hours away on the other side of that harbor. Well, all of these things are quite wonderful to talk about. Here is a painting done in Holland with some very menacing dark clouds, and I'd like you to know that Holland has almost always got dark menacing clouds over it. That's why Mr. Van Gogh was probably such an unhappy fellow, and that's why he went to France, to find the sun. Anyway, the way you pack this picture when it's wet is by making these little tape knobs, and they are sticky, and you can put a wet painting, you can put them opposite one another. It's what I call my sandwich of a painting. You can see right through it, you see? Now, nothing will touch that paint in there. You can put this in the bottom of a suitcase covered with clothes and everything, and that's how you transport a wet oil painting when you're out traveling and painting in the summertime. I have a lot to say, and I hope that it was interesting to you. Thanks for watching. This is me painting in the summer, and hoping that you find as much joy in it as I do. Tune in the next time when you see that this Cable Easel program is on, and maybe I'll have something else to tell you. Bye-bye.